So we will show a small demonstration on how we can read and configure ICCP gateway in Zenon to read and write to other third-party clients like the one from Triangle Works called Iron. First of all, we create this simple test project in Zenon to test the ICCP. We have two variables. We create one variable that has the real data type and one Boolean variable just to test 0 and 1. So we will try to send this information to the client PC and see if the value is received by the client. And these are two variables that will show me the communication status between the server and the client. So we have the Zenon runtime running on this machine. The IP address of this machine is this IP, and our control center, which will have the ICCP client, which will be the Triangle Works software. It will run on this IP address. So first of all, we will configure the server. So we will start Zenon process gateway, and then we select the ICCP process gateway in Zenon. Click OK, and then we go to the settings. Here we can specify the table name. So this table name should be unique, and it should be configured the same in the client as well. So both of them should have the same table name. So we will call it Zenon table. This will be the Zenon name or domain name. So we will call it Zenon RT for Zenon runtime. This will be the client side or the remote side, which will be the control center. Here we can show, we can add our variables for the status to see the communication status. So these are just internal variables in Zenon. The value of these variables will change based on the communication status. So in the process gateway, also the process gateway can act as a client as well. So it will act as a server by default, plus it will act as a client. For more security, it's always better to act as a server and client. In that case, you will communicate with a specific IP only. So only one IP address will be communicating with this process gateway. Here we put the IP address of our client, which will be the remote server for us as well, and the port that will be used for the communication. We will use a domain specific communication, so it will work based on these domain names as well. Okay, and then here we specify which variable. So these are the variables that I have in my project. So here we can specify which variable I will transmit to the client PC. So I will transmit these two variables. Actually I will transmit this one and this one. So the Boolean and the real variables. So these two variables I want to transmit to the system, to the other system. And if I need to change the name for the communication for this variable, so I can write any name that I want for this variable. For now we will keep the same variable name. Here we can see the data type, and do I need to send the value alone, or do we need to send the value with a timestamp? So we can specify from here that how and which value we need to send. If I need to read from the other side, so I can read any value from the other system, then I can store it in this variable if I need. So I will add just one as a sample. From this side we can see the Zenon server setting. So it will work with 1 or 2 port. Here we can specify the number of maximum incoming connections. So 0 will have that there is no limit. If I need only one connection, then I can specify 1 or 2. This is the version, so it supports 2008, or it will support 1996, I think. Okay, and that's it from the server side, from Zenon side. Now we will go to the client PC, and we will configure the Iron software or this Triangle Microworks as a client system. So this is the software, and from here we can create it as a client and the server at the same time. So we will have a bidirectional communication. When it acts as a server, we will give it our control center name, and this just keep it as 0000, so it doesn't check all the other parameters. If it is 0001, then all these parameters should match with Zenon. And then from here we configure it as a client as well. We can enable the connection at the start, and we can write the IP address of our Zenon server, and we can write any name here. So we can write Zenon RT, and this will be 001, so there will be no connection for the other, or no checking for the other parameters. And then we click OK. Now we see that the connection was established between the server and the client. See, so we can see that the variable value was changed from 0 to 1. That means that Zenon can, so there was a connection to Zenon server, the ICCP server, and also Zenon was able to connect to an external ICCP server as a client, and both connections are working. So if we have 1 or 2, that means that connection is okay. 1 means that it's connecting, 2 that it's already connected, and 3 when there is an error in the communication. Now to read data from Zenon, then we need to add this domain. So it was added by default. We can have it, we can also, if it's not there, so let's stop our server. I will create these from the beginning in case they are not added. So I will delete them, and then I will start the configuration from the beginning. So from here we can add a domain. So this is the control center server, ICCP server. So it will have the name of control center. So this name should match whatever we configured in the process gateway. So if we check, so this external server or the remote server should have this name, and Zenon server has this name. So this is the remote server, so it has a control center, and the table name we assign it same as what we have there, so Zenon table. If we check here, so we have Zenon table. Then we can add, if we need to write any value, so let's say state value, like a boolean variable, we can give it the same name as the one that we have, ICCP.bool. Okay, and then for the client side, we add the domain. Now here we will write Zenon name, so Zenon RT, and the table name will be Zenon table, and then we add the variables that we are going to read from Zenon. So we will read 2 variables. One of them is real, called ICCP.real, and the other one is called ICCP.bool. So these variables should match the variable name that's configured here. So ICCP.bool and ICCP.real. And then we can start the server, and the client is automatically started. We see that it's 1.1, and then to start the pooling, we right click on the variable and we start the pooling. So every 5 seconds it will try to read the value from Zenon. We can monitor from here, and we see that the response was successfully for the real and boolean variables. So now the values are 0, 0 in Zenon. If we change the boolean variable in Zenon to 1, now we can check, and we see that the value is changed to 1. If we change. Okay, so as we see, whenever we change any value in Zenon, we can receive this value in the triangle. So after every 5 seconds the triangle is checking if there is any value change, and we can see that the value change, so all the values are being written. So we see the value coming to triangle software. If we need to send from triangle to Zenon, so also it's possible to right click and write value. So right click and write, and from here we can, let's say, write the value 111. So when we write it, we will see that the value is changed in Zenon as well. So this is a bidirectional connection where we can read and write data between Zenon, ICCP gateway, and other party softwares. It's important to note that in order to have a healthy communication, so this communication, as we mentioned, will be specific with this IP address. It is specific with these domain names. So the third-party software, when it's try to connect to Zenon, it will try to connect with this domain name. So if that domain name doesn't match, then the communication will be dropped. And also Zenon will check if the table name is the same. So if they don't have the exact same table names, then also the communication can be dropped. And then we have the variable names. So these things, you need to be careful that they should match between the server and the client. So when you have the same variable names, then the communication will be healthy. Otherwise, there will be no communication between them. So the variable name and the data type, and what do I send the timestamp with it, or is just only a value? Okay, I hope it's clear now. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us.